Okay, we are on session 22. Hard to believe. We are winding it down here very soon on the internship. But uh, it's been exciting to see you guys do so well and learn so much. So, today we're going to be talking about, last week we spoke about personal tax analysis, which is really important to understand about the personal cash flow and the individual's personal financial statement, but to actually dive into the tax returns, understand the W-2 and the Social Security and all these other line items, going into the Schedule E, really trying to find out where do you navigate to get to things, what does it mean, how do we determine understanding people's debts and how those come into play. So now we're going to be going specifically into the business. And for the most part, lenders are going to spend the bulk of their time here, at least from a primary source of repayment for a loan. So they're going to look at what has the business been generating over the last 3 years, possibly the P&L as well, to see what it is that is going to take place. So if you remember that they are going to do a loan and they are going to be putting 10% down. Okay, and remember that they're buying a building for $4 million. So if you look at 4 million times 0.9, that's a $3,600,000 loan. Okay, and so you need to first take that into consideration when you're looking at it, is just to make sure that that is understood. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to begin to calculate what is a 3/6 loan. Okay, remember, if you recollect, you're going to do a 504 loan. And 50% of that loan, okay, so if you take half of it, okay, so half of the $4 million, that's a $2 million loan on the first. So you take $2 million and the terms are 4 1/4, and it's a 25-year amortization. So what that means is the payment is approximately $130,017 a year for the first. And then remember, 40% of the 4 million is $1.6 million. Okay, because remember, you're doing a 50% first, 40% second, 10% injection. So you got $1.6 million. This is the 40%, 25-year amortization at 3%. Okay, so that payment is $91,048. Obviously, there's some change, but so that means your cumulative payment is $221,155. Okay, $221,155. So you're going to put that across the board, so you kind of know what your payments are. Okay. So that's the first thing to do, is just to make sure that and remember, the business has no debt. So we're not going to put any existing debt payments. Okay. And we're just going to make an assumption, even though it's not in here, if they have new insurance on this type of building, it's going to cost them maybe 20 grand a year. Okay. Probably a little light, but for the sake of discussion, we'll put it down. Okay. And we're going to say for property taxes that it's probably somewhere in the 40. Okay, and then you're going to put that across the board. Okay. So you have 281, 155 in total debt service payments. So what we're trying to figure out is what is the debt service coverage ratio for 2020, 2019, 2018. First place we're going to start. Remember, M1 is that this is where you get the true picture of your cash flow. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take 403,586. Okay, for M1. That's on the 2020 tax return. And if you remember, we are dealing with the auto company. And you're going to go to that 2020 1120S tax return. Now, then the second piece is what about interest? So remember, we go to the line item, see if there's any interest in line 13. There is nothing. Go to depreciation, which is 403, not a lot. Any amortization, remember we scroll down in the other expense category just to see if there's any in there. Does not look like there is. So that would be 0 as well. And then we see if there's any distributions on the K1. Okay. And obviously we do not have the K1. Actually, we do have the K1s. So if you remember, there is 100% of the distribution that is going through on this K1, because remember, this is an individual owner that we're dealing with. Okay. And so it looks like there was no specific distributions, and that if there's any rent payments, okay, so you go back up to the line item, and remember the rent payments were 108,516, okay, so the total is 512,505 for 2020. If you look down, you'll notice it's 1.82%. Is the number, okay? So that's a good number, right? That's what we're trying to get to. So let's go now to the next year, which is 2019. Do the same thing. And it looks like for 2019, we go down to Schedule M1, and the M1 is 75. That's a big change. 75,939. So we're going to be asking lots of questions about that, like why is this such a big change? Okay. You're going to ask lots of those questions. Interest looks like it was $24. Again, pretty nominal. Depreciation was $29.44. Pretty big change. So you want to know something about that. Amortization, you're going to scroll back down to the other expenses and say, why did this happen? Do we have any amortization? No, we don't. So that's a 0. Let's take a look at distributions. See if there were any distributions at the end. That we should be aware of. Looks like we don't even have a K1 for that. So you would request, actually I take that back, here it is. So K1 is here. And it looks like we don't have any distributions there, just the ordinary business income comes out. So we leave that at 0. And then you ask the final one, which is your rent payments. Okay. So what are they paying in rent? 106,438. And remember, with rent payments, you want to make sure you're asking the question, which is, are they going to add that back in? Are they going to stay in there? Is that any equipment? Lots of questions. So 203,345, that's a 0.72 debt service. That's tough. That's not good. So we want to know, why did this go down? Literally, you've got a huge jump, okay, between the two. So you're going to be pressing into that question. Sometimes they don't know. So you might want to just be aware of that as well. So we dive into that. Let's go to 2018. And we're going to do the same thing, go to M1. Okay, M1 income is 91,723. So again, higher than 2019. Interest is $22. There's not a lot there. Depreciation, 804. Again, why did there's big change from 2019 to 2018? Amortization, you're going to scroll down, go all the way to, you go, where are you going, Dave? Other deductions, page 29. There should say amortization. If it's on there, there's not. So again, that's 0. Distributions, same thing. Not really seeing it. So you go down to their K1s. It's in there. Nothing substantial. So we leave that blank. And then rent payments. What are they doing? They paid 76,605. So that was a big change too. 169, 154, that's a 0.6, so 0.6, 0.72, 1.82. Big change, big change. Obviously, what you're going to do is you're also going to ask for P&L. So profit and loss statement to see what's going on in the interim. But you can always see, you see their M1 cash flow. The trends, obviously, it's been lower and kind of moving up in the direction that you need to. But you'll notice you didn't really have debt. Okay, so there really wasn't interest expense. We did add back depreciation. There really wasn't any amortization. There's really no distributions, and we added back the rent payments. We would want to ask what those rent payments are for sure. And then, if they did have business debts, you'd want to ask for a business debt schedule. And when you say stress test, what we mean by that is, if the rate was, 4.25, you would probably want to stress it at somewhere in the, 5%, or maybe you shorten the amortization. They're trying to say, is there anything we could squeeze on that, just to say if there was a fudge in the economy or the interest rate, could they handle the change? That's what we would want to know. Okay. So that would go a long way to doing that. And so remember, tax analysis, it's really not about getting into these crazy calculations where it's just confusing. As you can see, this is not overly complicated, but the key is you're going through this exercise, finding out a story. What is that story that's going on in the way they manage their cash flow, or how they've been growing, or what is it they're doing to make changes? Is it on purpose, or is it just by the whim? I mean, these are things that you are asking questions. You're the old detective on this, trying to identify what's going on and what's not. Okay, so these are wonderful things to notate as you go through this journey of trying to identify cash flow. When you're going through the attorney one, obviously, or the auto company and the law firm, and you'll get some of those answers as well. But that's really the focus for you guys when you're doing tax analysis, is you're just being extremely curious, asking lots of questions, and trying to identify if there is appropriate cash flow or not to proceed. And as you can see, we have 1 year, it's 1.82. We actually ended up getting the loan done, but as you could imagine, that, some lenders might not. So, it's not exactly black and white. I mean, there's a lot of gray. And so just be aware of that as you go through the tax analysis. So sorry missed you guys today, but understand kind of weird schedules right now with school. But just feel free to call me, text me, email me if you have questions, and we'll see if we can answer some of these things for you as we move along. All right, guys, thanks for all your hard work. Bye-bye.